Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Resilience Resourcing Podcast. This is a connection space where badass women share their real on their way to resilience. Each week, I have the pleasure of spotlighting women dominating in a diverse landscape of fields ranging from performance neurotraining to film and all in between. You will get to know the unique qualities these women each carry and how connecting with these empowering women's stories bring about camaraderie and in turn empower you towards your unique dreams and goals.
So I ended up actually, while I was in Colorado and stuff, that's when I applied for the Peace Corps. And the application was basically, I want to go somewhere warm. I don't want to be cold anymore. And I applied for the Peace Corps because I knew if I didn't do it then, I'd probably never do it. I was in a time and place where I had no kids. I didn't have a real career. I was a manager at a restaurant, but not anything that I couldn't walk away from and get another job. I didn't have a car payment or a mortgage. So it was a good opportunity where I said, if I don't try the Peace Corps now, I probably will never do it. And I didn't want to have regrets. I don't like the idea of having regrets. And I figure if I go and I hate it, I'll just leave. No one's going to tie me down and force me to finish my Peace Corps.
It's an opportunity for you to just try it. And what was it like? What was the experience?
So it was, there's good and bad to it. It's such a hard thing when someone says, what is the experience? Because the experience was everything. It was being uncomfortable physically and emotionally. It was feeling alone and isolated when you can't communicate with other people. Because nobody spoke English. I mean, there were other Peace Corps volunteers, but nobody within 10 miles of where I was living spoke a word of English.
Oh my gosh. How did you have to learn the language to kind of get through that?
Yeah, so I had to learn Fulakunda Pular, which is an African language that I never had heard of, let alone thought I would speak. But that's part of the pros. So yes, the language was hard and I felt isolated. Even once you know the language, the culture is so different. They're not understanding things the same way I am. So and physically I was malnourished. My toenails started to fall out.
Oh my gosh.
I was sick a lot because you get staph infections, you get intestinal.
You had a staph infection there?
Oh, I got full body bad staph infection. Yeah.
How did you get through it?
Lots of pain and antibiotics. So the Peace Corps has 3 goals. In hindsight, I don't know if I fully think that we accomplished the 3 goals. I think my opinion of Americans going to developing countries trying to be white saviors is a little not the best anymore. I think the best thing that Europe and America could do for the continent of Africa is to just get out and leave them all alone.
Yep. I have a community psych major and I 100% agree with you. That's all we talked about was getting over this white savior complex crap.
Yes. It's so I think the 3 goals of Peace Corps are 1, to educate the people about Americans, 2, to do actual service, so to help in a physical way, and 3, to educate the people of America about the country that you went to. So 2 out of the 3 goals are really just about culture and education.
Yeah.
And those 2 I agree with. It's that middle one. I can give an example of, we go in there and one of the projects they have Peace Corps volunteers do is put up gardens, community gardens. And they're like, oh, you should write a grant and we'll get you they call it grillage, but chain link fencing, and you can install it around a space and train the people in gardening techniques. And this is a great project. The people in my village, though, they were building fences out of bamboo, completely natural, with a fast-growing product that was local in the area.
Yeah.
I remember one time talking to somebody about why they didn't have bamboo fences at their garden. And they said, if we build bamboo fences, when the white trucks come, they won't come to our village. They'll go to the next village and give them metal fences. So we have to not build fences so that we can get the free fences.
Yeah, because
And it was like that
it's like a
mentality.
cultural thing that America didn't know or understand.
And it's the same, I don't know, it's the same thing as just there should never be an incentive for someone to not try or not do something.
Yeah,
And I think that that's the problem, is that what we've done there is we've created incentives for people to not develop on their own.
yeah.
We've said we're only going to help the worst off of you. So everyone's like, "Oh, I can prove we're the worst off." No, we're the worst off. And it's like that should not be.
That's not the goal.
And that's obviously not all of it. That's a snippet of it. And there are a lot of really good projects that people do. But
Yeah.
I think overall, the pros and cons, I think besides the education part, it would probably be best if we just let the people develop in their own way.
Yeah, because it seems like they already have some really good systems and things in place, and we're in some ways we're fucking it up. But there's other ways that it seems like it was educational for you within the way of life down there, and you learned their language, and you saw that they had a really good system, and you was there anything that you learned about their culture that was just really like eye-opening and changed the way that you live?
I think the attitude of community and personal needs being over everything else. I think in the United States, we glamorize being overworked and exhausted, and you have to do all of these things. And we say your mental health doesn't matter, work harder, do better. And I think there, it's a sense of community and people helping each other. And as a whole, we're going to get the job done.
Wow.
And like they have this thing where it says so inshallah is like God willing, and it comes at the end of every sentence. And it's kind of a beautiful thing, because on the one hand it can be frustrating as an American for someone to be like, I will meet you at 2 o'clock inshallah, and you're like, wait, so are you gonna be there or not?
Yeah.
But on the other end it says, inshallah, if God wills it. But if something comes up, if my mom needs a hand, I probably won't be there at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
If it's a bad day, if I'm not feeling great, I'm gonna go take care of myself. I won't be there. If I'm 3 hours late, well, maybe something came up. So
That is huge. Like that is a serious, like, different perspective than like the fast pace. Like your word has to be your word, and if you say
yeah,
something and then you go back on it, like, you know, it's like you said, it's totally the glamorized way of, you know, it's and Heather and I have talked about this a bit, but the things with America that were really big on industrialization and making things really, cookie cutter, quick, fast, efficient, that sometimes, oftentimes, we're noticing it's completely backwards because we're missing so much of life and so much of the importance
yep.
of life. You can't function without mental health. Like, you could be more productive with better mental health, more
Yes.
breaks,
Molly.
all those things. So that is, wow, that is
It
really
might
big.
be it might be jumping ahead a little bit, but that's part of the reason why I'm in Massachusetts now, why I live here now.
Yeah,
I
I
was
want to
in
hear.
Napa, California, and here my quality of life is better. I made more money in California, and California has some incredible restaurants, beautiful scenery, but here is a place where people are more authentic. I was probably one of my lowest points in life was in California. So I ended up starting to date a guy, and he was wonderful and we got along great. But then things got rough, and then we ended up breaking up. And that was probably one of the hardest things for me ever. Like, I can
Wow.
talk about how I go on adventures and I'm independent and this, that, and the other thing, but like that really like hurt me.
Wow.
So that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever gone through.
What
First
about it
time
was
I ever said
the
I love you too, and then it was over.
wow. So,
So
wow. Yeah, I want to know.
but I tried. So when I was there, I was miserable. I ended up, getting essentially kicked out of the house I was living in. And I had my sailboat to stay on, but it didn't have a shower and stuff. So that was not ideal. And I stayed with a friend in Napa who had a spare room. So I was staying with her while I tried to figure out what I was doing. But
Oh my
That's when I kind of realized that in California, I was commuting 2 hours to work. I was working a job that was not fulfilling at all. And I wasn't making enough money to like ever buy a house in California, or really, like, I could have gotten a studio apartment or something because it's so
yeah,
expensive. So I was like, I
yeah,
don't have a good place to live. I don't like the job I'm in. A lot of my social group disappeared because, you know, I had a couple of my own friends, but a lot of my friends were his like friends,
yeah,
girlfriends, and wives.
yeah.
So I was very isolated and didn't really know what I was doing with my life. So that was a hard point. I tried to find a therapist, and that actually was one of the most stressful situations. They need to make mental health actually available. I couldn't find one. It was
That,
like my insurance wouldn't cover people. Nobody was accepting patients. It was like,
that is a big reason why I'm doing this. Because mental health, first of all, a good therapist is expensive, and unless
so
you have good
expensive.
insurance, you can't get the good therapists.
Yep.
And the cutting edge therapy that actually works, that's like the best, is like for rich people. Like,
Yeah.
it's impossible. And I know there is, again, I don't get paid for this is no ad, but Cerebral is something that is a new, like, online, you can do therapy through them. I don't know enough to know if I would recommend it because I have honestly never done it. I know somebody who tried it, I think, because you can do like psychiatrists, you can do
Yep.
anything through them, and it's supposed to be somewhat affordable. But you know, therapy changed my life because of my traumatic brain injury and the light therapy and things that I've had to do to get my brain functioning, and then getting a second concussion. And so it, you know, thankfully my therapist does what do you call it, virtual. You know, she did it before COVID, she's always done virtual or in office, but um that is something I really want everyone to have access to. So, you know, thank you for sharing that vulnerability, because I think that is something that, you know, it can get to a point for people where it is a life or death thing if they can't find the help they need. So, you know, that's the goal here, is to share the real so that people can see, hey, like, this is a this is a part of life, that it doesn't matter how badass you are. Everybody has mental
Everybody
health
suffers.
times and goes through lows where our mental and physical, it's this, our body, we need both. So
And I think as resilient as you are and as strong as you are, everybody needs some help sometimes. Like, you get into these spirals going down, and it's like it's hard to climb out by yourself.
yeah, we're not isolated creatures either. We're meant to be
No.
around people. So yeah.
Mhm. I finally was able to find someone, and this is after searching forever. I found someone at Berkeley at the college
Hmm.
who was a student who was taking patients in their final year. So I actually signed up essentially for a student trial of 6 months of therapy, or one semester.
Wow. Did it
Because it
work
was the
out
only
well though? What?
it was the only thing I could find, so that's why. And
Yeah.
it worked out well. I think a big thing with therapy is it, it's just about being able to talk through your issues and having someone hold you accountable for them. I mean, I think
Yep.
that's what I found the best about it, was just being able to express my things. And when I said them out loud to somebody else, and not somebody like a friend who's like, yeah, you're right, that guy's a jerk, yeah, screw him, like, yeah. When it's like, when you're saying it to a stranger, you know, they say, well, this is your life, what are you going to do with it? And I think that that really helped me. I had one analogy that I liked, and it was, you know, everybody in life, we're dealt hands of cards throughout life. That's just the reality. Some people get a really good hand, some people get a crap hand. It's your job to figure out how to play it to the best of your ability. And I like that, because it's like this, it kind of takes it away, and it's like, okay, yep, you're right, that sucks, you're homeless, yep, so what are you planning to do about it? And it just sort of, it constantly was bringing me back to, you're right, like, I don't like where I'm living, I don't see a long-term future here, I don't have a strong social network, my job is not satisfying, why am I here? And as soon as I kind of put all those pieces together and realized, oh, wait, I don't have to be here. Like, and I think that it took someone else sort of poking me in that direction to really understand that, like, I wasn't happy with these things in life and I was in control of changing them. I just had to take that step, and it's a scary step. I
Well,
think
yeah,
for
and I think even part of that is like the when you get to a low point sometimes where you're isolated and all you have is your thoughts and, you know, things not turning out the way you expected them to, and finding yourself in whatever place you are within our, you know, society, even like, you know, someone without a home, like that, those kind of things can really knock you off your feet and make you think of yourself differently than, you know, you might have if you did have a home, or just like the basic things that we take for granted, and then, you know, you don't have that for, even if it's a short amount of time, it really messes with your head. And sometimes you have to be able to express that to someone, and they have the tools to help you do the work. Like, that's something I've always loved about my therapist, that she's always like, I didn't do anything. Like, it's really you're doing the work, but they're giving you those like tools, those ways to think
Yep.
about something that are life changing. Like you said, like thinking about it as a deck of cards, and which one are you going to play next, and how are you going to pivot, you know, or make this change, you know. And yeah, I that's pretty incredible though, that you were even in that situation, even you found a resource. You even did that before you found the therapist. You found the resource through, you know, a school, and through somebody who, you know, at least it was someone who was, you know, going towards their degree or finishing it.
Yeah.
And so that ended up kind of being a turning point, it seems like.
Yeah, I think it was that realization that this is not where I want my life to be. I'm going to just accept that this is where it is. The situation's not changing unless I make the change. And I think that that was the key thing, was saying nothing's going to change here. This is my situation. So I have to make a conscious decision to change it. And that was when I started applying for jobs in other locations. So I picked areas that had a reasonable cost of living, because I knew that was something I didn't like about the Bay Area of California. I
Yeah.
picked jobs that had some excitement to them, some interest to them. And I
And
just saw where it
how did you struggle at all with like I mean, you seem a very courageous person, but you know, when you're in a situation where you know, thought you found love, thought things were really kind of going in a different direction, and everything just kind of fell apart, um you know, and did you have did you lose any like optimism during that time, or have a struggle with like the courage to like get out? I mean, applying for jobs and all of that is kind of putting yourself out there again, and it can probably feel a little bit like scary when you're in a situation like that.
Oh yeah. No, I didn't really turn the corner. So we broke up in April, and I didn't turn the corner till probably that next November. And that was just starting to turn the corner to figure out what I was going to do. I definitely like, and I still am mad at myself to this day, despite what a therapist would say, but I lost myself in that. I gave too much of who I was up to be with someone else.
Yeah.
And I think that I wasn't the same me. I wasn't, like, by the end of it, I feel like I had gotten so broken down by the lack of value in myself, and how he made me feel, not feel mad at the relationship, but bad about myself. Like I wasn't worthy. I wasn't good enough. And these are thoughts that I'd never had. I'd always been a confident person. And for the first time, I was like, am I a bad person? There's something wrong with me. I'm the reason he doesn't want to be with me. I'm not good enough. And so there was just a whole level of, and I think that's what really tore me down, was not the breakup. It was the thoughts I was having about myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's emotional abuse, and dealing with the things that, there are people out there that they may look good on the outside, but, things can be going on that not everybody knows about. And, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, because there's a lot of people that are in bad relationships thinking that there's no way out because maybe they have lost themselves, feeling the same way. But
it's hard to get out. It's really hard, because I think it becomes your whole life, and you don't know, you forget what your life is outside of that. So when it ends, it was like, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know why I was living where I was living. I didn't know why I was working the job I was working. It was like so much of my life had been built for this future, and as soon as the future disappeared, it was like, wait, why am I even it's like, why am I even walking down this path? Since when did I want this path? This isn't the path I want. I want that path.
yeah.
And I think when, it takes a long time to like grieve and go through that, and grieve for yourself, for the loss of your own self. And then you have to like start building it back up and making those conscious decisions of, wait, who am I really, and what do I want?
And letting yourself like have that grieving time so that you can really have that, like, because I think sometimes people rush it, like they are like, well, I have to be over this, or there's like this pressure. And being kind to yourself and allowing yourself to be like, that was pretty fucked up, and doing the self-care, finding a therapist, working through it, not just distracting yourself and running to something else, but really like that's what true resilience is not running around it or denying it or distracting yourself from it, but going straight through it and being like, fuck this, and making, yeah.
I don't want to make it seem like I was perfect in that going through it, though. Like,
No, no one is.
I got pissed at myself for not being over it. I'd be crying, and then I'd be crying because I was crying, and I was so mad at myself for crying because I should just be over this. And I'd not go to work one day because I just didn't feel like I could even cope with the world.
That's real. That's real mental health. And that's just the real of hard. It's trauma. Everybody deals with some sort of trauma. Trauma doesn't mean that you almost died, or there's so many different types of trauma, and being in a emotionally abusive relationship, or losing yourself in a relationship and having to go through all of that, like, it's trauma. And mental health days are a thing, and that should be a thing across the board, just like physical health days.
We shouldn't have a day, though. We should just have a society where mental health is considered real health,
Yeah, there shouldn't be a stigma about it, because there's no reason to have a stigma about it. I mean, I think we're getting somewhere for sure in that area. It's more and more, people who have a voice are saying things, but you still get areas. I mean, even Seattle is still like, what? You have a therapist? Oh, like, it just, and different areas are kind of like, oh, yeah, of course. Like, having therapists is like going to the gym. Like, of course I do, like, but I think that you're not weak if you have a therapist. It's quite the opposite. So,
you're trying to be better. You're trying to figure things out, and
and it seems like, I mean, look what happened. So you went from, I mean, because I know the story doesn't end there. It just gets better, and like, it's just that's the part I want to hear now.
After California, I was applying for jobs all over. I ended up finding out about a farm out in Rochester, Massachusetts, that was owned by my great aunt and uncle, who I had met at various reunions probably once every 5 years. So wouldn't have actually been able to pick these people out of a crowd, probably. But I came out to Massachusetts. They were looking for someone. My great aunt was retiring. They needed someone to take on a lot of the administrative tasks, things like that. There was this grand plan for the company that they were going to be retiring out, and we were going to be kind of consolidating and building a new facility somewhere. And starting the next generation of the company. So I came out to help work with that. My experience with the government, with USDA, with agriculture, with administrative HR stuff.
Yeah, it was like perfect fit.
It all kind of fit together. So I took the job. I moved out to Massachusetts. Like I said, from the first moment I got here, I realized that this is just a really nice community. Like there are just really, really good people out here, very community oriented. People know each other. And I just loved it. I love living somewhere where I can have a house and know that everyone else on my block has a house. They're not homeless. They're not rich. They're just people. And I know that sounds so minor, probably for most of the country, but from some of the areas I've lived, that's a pretty amazing thing, actually. So
those are so, I mean, being able to have food and shelter in a community are some of the most basic human needs. So, and the fact that you've really been through a lot of all of those different, like, you know, not having those things and seeing places that don't have that, it doesn't shock me at all that that's something that you really value and see the value in.
yeah, I hadn't really thought about it actually, but I think in California, I lost my community. I think in Africa, not necessarily because I had to, but because I was choosing to live with the community, I was hungry and malnourished. I think I have, whether I chose those things or were forced into them, I've made the decisions that have let me live without certain things. And when I came here, I said, you know what, I want those things. So
well, that's part of life, is learning yourself and what's important to you. And you don't really learn those things without having some kind of experience to show you what it's like not having them, because we take so many things for granted that most people probably don't even know.
That's why everyone should travel. I highly encourage travel. And if you're not comfortable with just traveling out in the world on your own, find a group to go with or an organization that's doing it, but see another culture and don't just stay in the American hotel and eat at the Americanized restaurants. Like walk through the streets and eat at the taco shack. Like
meet people in the culture, learn how it actually functions. Yeah.
Stay in an Airbnb or at a real bed and breakfast, like with like a local host and stuff, but like have the experience when you travel and be open-minded to the cultures and stuff. I think that can just change your whole way of looking at things.
That's really, really good advice.
So much from everyone. So
that's really good advice. Heather's always been telling me to travel, and I've always been a little bit, timid because, it just, if you haven't traveled a lot, you think it sounds like, oh my gosh, how do you, how do you do that? But like, I meet people all the time that are like always telling me that like travel is their life, and like that's what they want to do. That's what they want to, even if they can't do it now, they plan on doing it in the future, and they want to make a life where they can, because there seems to be so much value in getting to know things that are outside of the norm, and just experiences that are, I think experiences above riches is really what seems to be some of the most valuable parts of life, is more than just having, America focuses so much on success and having money and being famous or those kind of things, but it doesn't, you look at the differences between people having a ton of money and having fame versus people having experiences and traveling, like it's quite interesting to see the differences in how people can really enjoy quite a bit more just by traveling. It's simple, but it's huge.
It doesn't, I think, like I said, empowerment is something that you achieve slowly, but every time you do something, you get a little bit more empowered. So it's not about like, you don't have to buy a one-way ticket to Australia. You can go stay in a hotel for one night by yourself in a town that you've always wanted to see. Just go one night, hotel, go out to dinner somewhere in a town you've always been interested in. And I think that's the thing, is you can start small. You can start with one thing that's a little intimidating and you grow from there. Then it's like, okay, wow, that actually felt really good. That was really nice. I'm gonna go for a weekend away in New York or Hawaii, and you do it. You do a weekend, and then eventually your one-way ticket to Australia. But it's those
Then
little,
you
I
get
think it's just
there.
those little things. And every time you succeed and you take that chance and you say, wow, I did that. I did that myself. I was capable to do that.
It empowers
Then
you to
the
do it
next
again
time
and
you're
keep
like,
going.
oh no, I did that. I can do this. And it goes and goes and goes, and it doesn't end. I don't think it ends. I mean, maybe it does, and I'm just not at the end yet, but I just
No, because you,
bought a business and
yes, that was the thing. So you end up figuring out what's really important to you. You go to a place where you can use your skill set, all your skills,
Mhm.
and you end up realizing it's just perfect. It's the perfect space. You love, and you know what you want. You know the community. You know that you value having a home, uh, good, being able to afford the things that are around you, not feeling, too extreme on either end. And then, in your happy spot, you end up working at a pub.
Not exactly. So the way that happens is the farm I was working at. So
Mm-hmm.
part of the whole succession planning was, okay, I take over a lot of the administrative stuff, and the current owners, my great aunt and uncle, sell the business to other people. So my aunt and my cousin were looking to buy it. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the complete package to buy it. Um, so I thought my dad was looking for investment. So I thought, oh, I'll bring him in to the mix and everything. So we were working on the idea of buying this farm and then rebuilding on some beautiful new location.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that's a great idea for somebody, but it didn't go through on our end. So I was out, my dad was out. I was still working doing the administrative, but the idea of some level of ownership kind of went away.
Yeah.
So with that though, I was like, wow, I'm really excited about the idea of owning a business though. That would be really cool. And I love, like, I've always worked multiple jobs. And when I've always had a restaurant job. Even when I was working for the Department of Agriculture in California, I worked at 2 different restaurants over the 3.5 years.
Wow.
Just in the evenings and weekends, because it's social, it's fun, and food and beverage make people happy. So it's a
Yeah.
place where you can go and you can make people happy and have a good time. And it's fun. I love it.
Yeah. It's a way you like meet people in new locations too.
Yes, absolutely. So I was like, okay, well, I want to buy a business and I like restaurants. So I started looking for businesses for sale. I went through a business broker because now I knew what I was looking for. I had certain criteria. So mind you, this is the pandemic now. So
Wow.
I'm starting to look. I moved to Massachusetts in January. March is when travel restrictions all went in place. I would say by June, I'd given up on the idea of purchasing the current business I was at, but I was interested in the idea of owning a business. So I was, by like July, August, I was actively looking for a business to purchase.
Wow.
Uh, so the criteria that I wanted in a business was I wanted something I would enjoy, something that was already making money, something that was recession proof. So pandemic proof.
Yeah.
Uh, and so with a restaurant, that meant it needed to have dedicated parking because parking in the city is a pain. It
Mm-hmm.
needed to have some form of outdoor dining,
Mm-hmm.
and it needed to have the real estate available to buy with it. And that is because rent is the thing that drove businesses out during this pandemic.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford their crazy rent payments, and so they went out of business. So by owning the property, you at least have that hard asset. And the way that we ended up going into it was my dad actually purchased the property. I purchased the business.
Wow.
So it was a way for him to invest in something. He has the hard asset of the land. He gets a cut of the restaurant business as payment.
That's super
So
smart for him
he gets a
too.
hands-off investment, and I get a business to run.
Wow. So
Yeah,
you are co-owner of the business or you're a manager of the business?
I am the 100% owner of the
Oh,
business.
wow. Oh my
So
gosh.
So my dad is actually closing next month. That deal this is all so fresh. That hasn't gone through, but my dad will be 100% owner of the property. So he'll be my landlord. And
Oh, okay.
I already am, as of May 26th, the owner of the business.
Wow,
Kind of.
congratulations.
I'm the president of my corporation who owns the business. That's
That's
a whole
so true.
legality thing.
Yeah, you want that. Just that's a smart move.
Yeah,
You're
it's
very
good
wise
stuff.
with money and with that kind of thing. Wow. So
Yeah, so
holy crap.
we
You
got the business. We're busy. It's crazy. We're having a good time. It is a ton of work, but it's nice because it's a ton of work, but it's in a direction that I know is going to pay off. It's a ton of work, but I'm making decisions that could set me up for a lot of success and that could really have great payoff. And I'm working with a really amazing group of people. Like the staff stayed on through the transition. So
wow,
they
that's
didn't quit,
incredible.
and they're incredible. They're just a really great group of people to
Wow.
work with. And the customers are loyal regulars for the most part. They're people who come there a few times a week, even daily. And it's the same people, and they know each other's names, and they know the bartenders, and the bartenders already have their drink ready when they're walking in the door. It's very much, it's Cheers. It's so much like this, the corner pub where everyone knows your name.
Wow.
And so it's a really cool place. So I'm just trying to do it justice, and
That's such a perfect fit too, because you're so wise to do something that's already running and doing well, to just take it over and transition into that. And it's you love going out to restaurants, and now you get to be the owner of it, so it's something you enjoy. And I mean, I can't even say enough about it makes so much sense. Like, even when you look back, I don't know if you've done this yet, but like you look back at the experiences and how it led you there, and it's just like it makes so much sense how you got there, and how that's you know you
I
wouldn't
love
have got there if you would have had those other experiences.
No, I love that about life is I have no regrets. And not that that means that everything was perfect, but it means that everything happened to bring me to where I am now. It's,
Yep.
one little thing could have changed and everything would have been different. I mean, honestly, if I hadn't gone through that breakup and broken myself, I'd probably be a housewife in Texas with no career of her own, like waiting on someone else to decide my fate.
Yep.
So,
And
this is
you listen to yourself through each time, and you know you have a grit about you that is something that I think only happens through going through tough experiences and learning that you can, and being empowered to keep going. I guess, to wrap it up, what is like advice that you would give to someone who is at that point of like, oh, things are not turning out the way I thought they were going to, and I feel like I can't get out of this like stuck rut. I feel like my life is going in a direction I didn't want it to, and people who just feel like it's impossible, and you were stuck in the middle of the ocean without gas, and you're here. So I think uh, I'm pretty sure that anything's possible.
well, okay, we'll use that analogy though, stuck in the motion. Flag down a fisherman and get creative.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that means, if you just need someone to listen to you, if you need someone to help you, like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Rely on the people around you, because community, as a species, community is our biggest asset.
Yep.
It's not our brains, and our like ability to do things. Like it's community. It's this pack that we live in. So ask for help and be creative. Like, there is no problem that you can't get out of. You just have to sometimes be willing to sacrifice something to get it. I mean, taking a chance it's a chance. It's never risk-free. You might lose something. Like, I don't live in California anymore. There's benefits to California. The food is really good in California. The wine is amazing.
Yeah.
And not that that's like a reason to stay somewhere, but it's take that chance, take the step and see what happens. Like, if you're in a rut and if things are bad, like, you do have the power to change it. You just have to, like, You just have to make a little step, even if it's just a little one. Like, just start, figure out the direction that you want to be, figure out the end goal, and walk in that direction.
Stay tuned for next episodes on www.resilienceresourcing.com.